I used to live in South Africa, so I couldn't agree more. Congratulations to Kimon and the other awardees tonight. Let me tell you a fun story. Thank you so much to the Association of Foreign Correspondents in the USA and to Microsoft for this. I knew New York was expensive, but then I came here, and whatever I imagined, it's even more expensive than that. So I really appreciate this. A fun story. So 2 years ago, I had to evade arrest by my own government and end up in a safe house. And how we did that is we crouched under a car that came out of the basement and basically at the very bottom of the belly of the car and kind of somehow made it out of the newsroom where I used to work. It's very dramatic in the movies, but in real life it's just really smelly. So please vacuum your cars. The reason why that was is because 2 years ago, the Kenyan government suddenly shut down 3 of the biggest independent TV stations for national security reasons. Focus on air quotes. And the national security reason is because the leader of the opposition after the election decided that he was going to swear himself in a parallel swearing in. And the government said we could not cover that because it would inflame passions or whatever. And so I was an anchor and editor to one of the stations, NTV, and I was on the air when our signal was taken off the air. And I became one of the most critical opponents of this attempt to muzzle us and to basically harm our freedom. And I was very publicly disagreeing with the government locally on my social media, but also in lots of international outlets. And so one of my colleagues and I, as well as our boss, was earmarked for arrest by this very brutal wing of the Kenya police that's known for enforced disappearances. So we could have gotten arrested and disappeared forever. And that's why they were camped outside our newsroom, and if we went out, then we were going to get nabbed, and that's why we had to go into the safe house. And eventually we got something called anticipatory bail, and which essentially blocks the government from arresting you, and if they prefer charges against you, then you say, I'm a law-abiding citizen, I'll show up in court to answer any charges. And that's how we became free. But when I went back to work, my organization, I used to write a column for a newspaper also owned by the organization, and I tried to write about that experience, and I was told, actually, we can't publish that. And I was also told that we're going to keep you off the air for a little bit, just until things cool down, and you can't interview these people when you come back. So not only was I a target of arrest by the government, but then the organization was self-censoring to try and not displease the government. And obviously, it was a situation that was unacceptable for me. I ended up publishing the same column with CNN.com, thanks to them. And I left the organization. I went to work for the BBC, got a great job, thankfully, working, covering business news in Africa, splitting my time between Nairobi and London. Let's be honest, I sold out. But the air miles were nice. And this year, I took a sabbatical from that job and came to Colombia. But one of the things I've seen over the last decade or so traveling across Africa is met so many of my colleagues, local journalists that work for blogs and small publications and government-owned outlets all across the continent, in Cameroon, in Rwanda, in Ethiopia, in Mali, and they're getting arrested. Their stuff is getting banned. The newspapers are getting taken off the streets. In some cases, they're getting arrested, and they disappear in Tanzania, for instance, and sometimes they don't appear again. In some cases, in some extreme cases, journalists are ending up dead, in Somalia, for instance. And that's a major crisis that we have on the continent. It's a major attack on press freedom. And they don't have the protections that the BBC offers, for instance. They don't have the prestige of Columbia. They don't have the privilege of recognition of an association like the Association of Foreign Correspondents. They do their work exposing wrongdoing and shining a spotlight on malfeasance and corruption, and they're speaking truth to power in ways that I could never imagine. They are the true heroes, and they are the ones that deserve all the recognition. Thank you.